KentCov kids, Pastor Torina here, and our story this month is Luke 24, verses 13 through 35. The grown-ups actually learned about this story last week from Pastor Dan. So this story, it takes place 3 days after Jesus had died on the cross. A few of the women, they had gone to his tomb to prepare Jesus' body for burial, but his body was not there because he had risen from the dead. He was alive. But when they ran to tell the other disciples this amazing news, they didn't believe them. And this is where our story picks up, because that same day, 2 of the disciples, they were walking to a village not far from Jerusalem called Emmaus, and they were talking about everything that had happened over the last few days. And while they were talking, Jesus himself came up and walked with them. But they were kept from recognizing him. Jesus asked them, "What are you talking about?" Well, they couldn't believe this question. One of them asked, "How can there be anyone who doesn't know the things that have happened?" Now, of course, Jesus knew exactly what they were talking about, but he asked, "What things?" The disciples must have been flabbergasted because they blurted out, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth. He was a prophet who spoke powerful words and he did miraculous things for God and for everyone. Well, he was betrayed and lied about, and the people in charge, they killed him. They crucified him. And we had hoped he was going to be the one to save Israel. But he's dead." And then something really weird happened this morning. Some women went to Jesus' tomb, but his body wasn't there. And they said they saw angels who said Jesus was alive. And Peter, he went to check it out, and the tomb really was empty. We are so confused. Well, Jesus said to them, "You are so foolish and so slow to believe all that the prophets had spoken. Didn't the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And then Jesus went on to remind them of all the prophets had said, beginning with Moses. So this reminded the disciples what Scripture said about what would happen to the Messiah. And these were all things that happened to Jesus. Well, as they approached Emmaus, the disciples begged Jesus to stay with them. Now, they still did not recognize that it was Jesus, but Jesus did stay with them. So they sat down for a meal, and Jesus took the bread, he gave thanks, and he broke it. And he began to give it to them. And all at once, their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. And then Jesus disappeared. They looked at each other. They were so puzzled, and they said, "Weren't our hearts burning when he was talking with us and sharing scripture with us?" And they jumped up and quickly returned to Jerusalem so that they could tell the disciples what had happened. And when they did, they proclaimed, "It is true. The Lord has risen." Friends, I love this story. And one of my favorite things to do when I read a story is to ask why and to wonder, like, why didn't the disciples recognize Jesus on the road? And why didn't they believe when the women told them this amazing news about the empty tomb? I wonder how those women felt not being believed. Why did Jesus disappear like that? And I wonder why it wasn't until Jesus broke that bread that they knew who he was. So what why questions do you have, and what do you wonder about? So let's ask why and wonder questions this month as we dive into this story together, all right? Okay, later, friends.